More than half of the continental U.S. is facing drought. Meanwhile, in just the South this year, tens of millions of people have been under flood watches. These extreme weather conditions can have major impacts on farmers and their crops at a time when they're already facing high production costs. Paul Solman recently traveled to southern Georgia to hear from some of those farmers. It's part of our continuing series, Tipping Point.
In southeast Georgia, the Berry family, farming for generations. Their grandpa, a sharecropper. But this spring, drought.
Your dad said he's never seen a drought like this before.
Right.
Have you?
No, not in my lifetime, I haven't. Never heard stories of a drought this bad either.
If we were to plant on schedule in the heart of the drought, we pretty much would have lost all those crops.
170 miles west, the opposite problem, at the 2,400-acre Longleaf Ridge farm, run by sixth-generation farmer Casey Cox Kerr.
I wanted to come back and build on the foundation that my parents had built.
She too faces drought, though her part of southern Georgia finally did get rain a few weeks ago. But it was a downpour that menaced the crops.
Not only does it drown some of the plants, it also creates disease and pest problems. We're seeing wetter wets and drier dries, and that can be a big challenge with what we're experiencing on the farm.
Wetter wets, drier dries. You won't be surprised to hear this has something to do with climate change.
It's affecting precisely those things that people depend on for their livelihoods, their food, their water supplies. These are essentials.
Rachel Cletus of the Union of Concerned Scientists.
Climate change is making these more frequent, both the short duration kinds of droughts that we're seeing in some places, but also the longer mega droughts like the Southwest is experiencing. The unpredictability of it, the extremes, both the droughts and then the whiplash with extreme rainfall events, that makes it very difficult to plan for these kinds of conditions.
During drought, Ag Professor Wes Porter of the University of Georgia says the local soil compounds the problem.
If you look in our region where we're at now in southern Georgia, we have a really sandy soil. So sandy soils can't hold a whole lot of water. So what that means, we actually evaporated out significantly higher amounts of water than what we had received back in. So we were looking negative.
Meanwhile, those farmers now face punishing costs like diesel, spurting up almost 50% since the end of February. And some 7 in 10 farmers say they now can't afford rising fertilizer costs.
I mean, now we would normally be at market already, and we haven't been. Things just aren't ready.
Now, both guys work full-time jobs. Tony at the Port of Savannah, Cedric's an electrician.
How much time do you get to spend here as opposed to on your regular jobs?
For me, 2 to 3 days out of the week.
And for you?
Evenings and weekends.
They help finance the farm with their salaries. The drought upped the cost. The Berries usually sell hay, for example. Had to hold some of it back to feed their cattle. Their own pasture parched dry. $10,500 in lost sales.
Fertilizer, fuel, those things like that. That money would have covered that for sure.
Is that $10,500? Is that a substantial hit?
Yes, sir. I mean, if you want to give me $10,500, I ask you that question.
Tony Berry grew up a city boy in Savannah and never dreamed he'd wind up down on the farm. But with cousin Cedric,
we just naturally came together and it's like, okay, well, let's follow the family tradition and do this.
Back across the state, tradition brought Casey Cox Kerr back too.
Like most things, a little bit of time and perspective made me realize how unique this farm is and how special it is that I get to do this.
But with a changing climate, what hope is there for family farmers?
This technology is very vital to survival.
Technology, like precision irrigation. At a University of Georgia research park, B.J. Washington and team are helping farmers conserve their water.
You can program how much water you put out. You can program where it needs to start and stop in the field. You can speed it up or slow it down within the field to put out more water or less water. You can do all that from this panel.
Those big circles you see from your airplane window seat, created by center pivot irrigation rigs like the ones here, sprinkling water over crops slowly and evenly instead of spritzing it all at once. And these soil moisture sensors let the ground itself signal just how much soaking it needs so farmers don't overwater.
Given the drought, it's a huge deal because we want to be as efficient with irrigation as possible. We don't want to waste water. We don't want to irrigate if we don't need to.
We could not grow what we grow without irrigation because of just the frequency of drought. The new irrigation systems, new technologies, we're taking the steps that we're able to take to mitigate the risks that we can. We have to focus on what we can control.
Which made me wonder, why isn't everyone doing this? One obvious answer, it's not cheap. The irrigation rigs cost at least $90,000. The sensors up to $2,500 each. But, says Professor Porter,
it looks like a big cost, but it's costly for us to misapply our irrigation. It's costly for us to lose yields because of that, right? And so I have a lot of return on investment data that show that anywhere from, on the low end, $20 to $30 per acre, all the way up to $150, $200 per acre return for utilizing advanced irrigation scheduling. And that's per acre.
So maybe data will get the nation's farmers to change their ways, and maybe farm tech will stay ahead of further climate changes.
Man, we've got this. We can adapt, we can change. We've been doing it for a long time. The way we farm today might look different than the way we farm in 100 years. But I'm hoping that the work we're doing today is helping build a foundation.
And in the long run, Rachel Cletus says, there are policy steps worth considering.
And so we should, as a nation, not leave farmers on their own to deal with this, whether they can afford it or not. We've got to invest. We have to make sure that farmers are aware of the options that might be there and that they get grants or low-cost loans that they can maybe install some of these technologies on their farms if they need them.
Meanwhile, the berries keep on pushing, without pricey technology, leaning on a tradition older than the farm.
We do put faith in our good Lord that He will provide a way because He has done that all these years before us. And I'm a strong believer that He will continue to do that.
We're doing the job that's important, providing the food for surrounding communities, letting people know where the food actually comes from. And we need that, and, just feel like if we're serving that purpose, He will provide.
Well, He moves in mysterious ways.
Yeah, definitely.
For the berries, though, mystery or not, wetter wets and drier dries are an all-too-present reality. For the PBS News Hour, Paul Solman.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.